No, get all remote, you know.
It's going there, it's locked out in the house.
Try to call her on Zoom, just so you know. Okay, well, good, I just leave it all on Zoom then, you know?
I suppose. And I was sitting on my porch, you can take it very well by, but last night I was.
Did you send that to me?
Yes, oh, it's all similar. It's a wild place, I'm like, I have to be ready to evacuate at any moment, because I didn't know. I'm a Midwesterner.
What was the smoke from? It was from the meeker fire, but the wind stopped. And it just sat. It was actually the worst further north.
That way,
Yeah, that way.
who knows?
No, well, I noticed that the first power was out too at my house. Yeah, and I'm just, what was I doing? I think I actually went to bed at like 7:30 because I thought that. I'm exhausted, I don't want to do the store, then I got up at 10:30, everything was back on. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we lost the power about 6 and just about to eat dinner. So. Then we still so nice that. Man, it's being hard, there would be. That's a fun, I think. Yeah.
Or,
They were being tough.
yeah.
No.
Hey, how are you? Good.
Seriously.
Are you speaking today? All right. About when I'll pass.
Oh, no, that's the SO. I'm happy to be a conduit, but there, unfortunately, the sheriff is the authority on that.
Okay.
But I will say though, I think the 24th, there is a work session.
Okay.
So anyone from here wants to come, might come, or at least listen.
Oh.
Can you mention that?
I'm sure I get the name.
Okay.
Alright,
Oh, howdy,
howdy,
lady.
how are you?
Kevin, would you like a hard copy of the packet?
Yes.
Is Craig not coming? He's on remote. He's
Well, all done online too, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
we have a quorum, but
And Craig's remote, did you say?
Craig is also remote.
Okay.
So at least you can. Conduct all the conduct. So I think we could just like sit here and have a conversation.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah, this could be just like super. Just put me on. Silence here, so that's.
See?
Yeah. Glasses on so I can see. Hey, are we ready to roll?
Let's do it.
Pedro?
Yes.
Okay. So. Good morning, it is 8:01 and I'm calling the Georgetown Business Promotion Commission meeting to order on August 6, 2025. At Town Hall in the town of Georgetown. Roll call. Are you our clerk?
I can do the roll call.
I can do it.
Or did you do it?
I'll do it, okay. Craig Abrahamson,
Here,
Mike Huggins. Kevin Kuhart here. Paul Boat,
here.
Gary Haynes. Justin Down. And Mary Smith.
Here,
Okay.
I guess I should say I'm Mary Smith, a member of the BPC and conducting this meeting because our chair is remote. Agenda approval. Does anyone have anything to add to the agenda?
No.
I do. The bell at Alpine Post number 2.
Oh my God, it's back, huh? Every year. Okay, we will add that to as item number 14.
Is it broken?
We will discuss that when we get to that, please. Sorry. Anything else? Anything to strike?
Yes.
Gary just texted me that he's on his way.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion to accept the amendment as the agenda as amended.
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Paul?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any audience business? Members of the audience will have 5 minutes to matter of interest related to the business of the town that is not already on the agenda. Those attending virtually may use the chat feature. No official action will be taken at this time. Do we have anyone on chat?
No.
Or and Colton, you're on our agenda. Madam Police Judge, did you have anything from the
I did
audience
not.
that you wanted to? Thank you. Welcome, business owners and operators. Do we have any new business owners or operators that we're aware of? That have applied
In general,
for business licenses?
Sure.
Yes,
Jay's on Sixth Street
Okay.
has applied for a business license.
Great.
And Keith Crossick, the Anomaly, has applied for a business license.
Great.
anyone else?
There's contractors, but they're not brick and mortar, so.
Okay. Well, they are business owners and operators. Minutes approval. Has anyone had a chance to look at the minutes? And if not, should we table them to review them? Are they in here?
I moved to table the minutes from our last meeting.
I'll second.
Second,
We have a motion and a second by Kevin Koharik, all in favor?
Aye.
aye. Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. New and unfinished business, Georgetown visitation update, Colton Rohau. Please, thank you, welcome.
Thank you. Where do I stand? Those-
If we're gonna stay out the front there, you'll be very visible.
Just so the camera picks you up and doesn't cut off your head, please. Perfect.
Well, it's nice to see you all again. For those who don't know me, my name is Colton Roloff. I'm the deputy county manager for Clear Creek County. And one of the things we wanted to give an update on was just year to date on our visitation numbers. We're seeing some pretty interesting changes countywide, in people's behavior. Year to date, do we, the presentation up? It's not very big.
It's not very big.
No, I mean, I'll need to look at it on mine, if I can read it. So hopefully everyone can see that okay, and if not, I can send you guys hard copies or get a hard copy from Acacia. So basically, I wanna talk about kind of a little bit of the shifting of what's happening with people's behavior. It's affecting different places in the county differently. And then we're gonna talk a little bit about 4th of July, how that went. I did a similar conversation with Idaho Springs on their 4th of July, and even though the places are different, the behavior that we observed is pretty similar, in the changes over last year. So next slide. Okay, so this is Clear Creek County. So there's an interesting thing happening here, and just for a refresher, when I say out of market visitor versus out of market visit, I'm talking about two separate things. A visitor is a unique person, right? It's a unique cell phone in this case. So a visitor can enter the county one time in a year and be considered one. If they come 10 times, that person comes back 9 more times, that's 9 more visits to that one visitor, right? So a visit is any time a device enters the polygon. Doesn't matter if it's the same person 15 times or one person once. Visitors is a unique body. So what we're seeing across the county is an acceleration in visits, right? Visits, people entering the polygon, right? Entering the county that don't live here. So we have 3 distinct populations that we track. Commuters, which are out of county employees, so commuting to work. Residents, which is pretty consistent, however, it does dip, and we can talk about that a little bit later because we do have people who only live here seasonally. And we have out of market visitors, which is basically anyone coming into the county that does not live or work here, right? And these are what people generally consider tourists, but we've all heard my opinion on that. You know, kind of talking about them broadly like that. So what we're seeing across the county is that we're not getting a whole lot of new visitors, but we're getting a lot more visits. Which means that day trip mentality from the metro is increasing, right? The rate of people entering and leaving on day trips is going up, because if you look at our growth in visits versus visitors, it's accelerating on the visit side, which means less people proportionate to the number of visits. So the average trip per person is going up, right? So we're getting way more pressure. We're seeing this in all the data, that there's a shifting of consumer behavior, right? The other evidence we have of this is we are actually down on traffic counts at the tunnel, right? Not the double tunnel, not the Veterans Tunnel, not the Idaho Springs Tunnel, but the big tunnel, the Eisenhower Tunnel, right? We're also seeing sales tax and lodging tax and booking and all the data through the tunnel dropping like a rock. Breckenridge is down 8%. I mean, people are down double digits across the board. So we're seeing a transition of people in uncertain economic times transitioning away from expensive overnight trips to day tripping from the metro. And we're a more affordable option. So we're seeing more visits. The net here is that the county will hit 9 to 10 million visitors this year, probably visits this year, up from 7 last year, right? We're on track to probably hit 10. This number, 5.5 million, is through the end of July, right? So if that trend holds, we're gonna hit 9 in minimum, right? And the result of that,
Cole, can I ask a quick question?
yeah,
Are the visits to Idaho Springs or are they throughout the county?
this is the whole county. We'll talk about Georgetown next.
Okay, thank
So
you.
Georgetown is not accelerating at this kind of rate.
Okay.
So we can talk about reasons why that might not be. So let's get to the next slide and talk about that really quick.
Yeah, thank you.
So Georgetown is actually down, right? So I have some thoughts about why this might be in the data. I'm just using the data as my guide. Obviously, the business owners probably have a different perspective, and I'm not here to tell them that they're wrong. So what we're seeing is visitors are down more than visits, right? So even though you're dropping, you're still seeing more people come more, right? If you are proportionally down, you should be down 3.6% across the board, right? So the people that are coming more. You're down a little bit. Now, there's a little reason for this. I'm not totally convinced of the data that this is unique to, say, Sixth Street. This, I think, might be a artifact of the gas stations on the roundabout, because the traffic past the intersection, the Empire Junction, is down. You actually constitute a huge amount of your visitation from people just buying gas, right? So there's an artifact that's potentially just secondary to the traffic on 70 being down. So that could be the reason. There's also you're exposed, the business portfolio in Georgetown is pretty heavily on lodging and retail, which is down in the county from a revenue perspective, right? Dining is up, lodging and retail is down. We'll have that later in the slide. So there could be a couple of reasons for this, but this is where Georgetown is year to date on devices. Now, some caveats here. This is someone who stops for more than 10 minutes. So this is already trying to filter out some of that gas station fluctuation, because those numbers are extremely volatile, right? And a lot of times they don't have anything to do with the town. It's more of it's a secondary effect of 70 on a lot of cases. We see that in Idaho Springs and even in the unincorporated gas stations as well, that their visitation data is extremely volatile. So I, as a general rule, try to cut them out unless they are in the store for more than 10 minutes, which then that constitutes more of a traditional visit, right? Does that all make sense right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Next slide. Okay, so if this visitation trend holds through the year, we will have more visitors per resident than any county in the state. We will hit 990 visits per resident. The net number 2 is Summit County at 800. So we will be almost 200 more than them per resident, which shows like the disproportionate impact of these visit counts on an extremely small population base, an extremely light infrastructure county and one without a lot of developable space, right? So this trend is holding and actually accelerating, right? So if we hold this pattern through, we will be number one by a lot in the state. You take any of the bigger counties, what people think of as the tourist counties, Eagle, Grand, Summit, right? They have more visitors, but they have more people. So there's that disproportion. We are the most upside down of anyone, right, on that ratio. So that puts a lot of stress on a lot of things in our economy. So in the way that government is financed too. So, this is just something to keep an eye on, and this is now the metric that we're using to talk about more broadly with CDOT in the state about our exposure here. Isn't about the number of visitors, because they'll always be able to say, well, Summit gets more. It's the fact that we don't have the tax base like they do, right? And partly that is because our population is so low. Compared to some of these other places. So, next slide. All right. So we have some new data to show you. This is from Visa. So Visa constitutes about 20% of the transactions that happen in the county. Now, just like everything, there's some weaknesses in this data. One of the things that this data doesn't show very well is online transactions. What I mean by online transactions is not, I ordered a ski pass on Loveland online and picked it up at Loveland. It'll track that because the point of transaction and delivery is the same. What this doesn't do a good job of tracking is Amazon. Because the delivery of the product is different from where the product was trained. They process everything in California. They ship it out of some warehouse, who knows where, and then it ends up in your house. So there's actually multiple data sets that the Visa doesn't have access to correctly monetize that. So what we're using this data for is just tourist spending, because tourists don't buy a lot of things online, and particularly from places like Amazon. Now, they might prepay for a ticket or something online, but it tracks that. It's the fact that like they're not getting a lot of stuff delivered to their house, right? Because they don't live here, right? There is some, so we are undercounting a little bit. But the point of this, and I apologize that you can't see it, but basically what this is saying is that there's a kind of a notion that the people who come up here from Denver don't spend the amount of money that people who are visiting from out of town might. And that is true and not true. So I will say that the people from Denver constitute the vast majority of the population that spends zero. But if they do spend money, they spend roughly the same, right? So the average ticket for someone from Denver, the average transaction cost is $31, right? Dallas Fort Worth is 39, Chicago is 38. So we're pretty close, right? We're pretty consistent once they make that transaction. So the goal is to get them to make the transaction. If we include the zeros into the Denver metro day tripping population, we actually have a hugely low average ticket. It's like less than $8, right? Because there's so many people that come and spend nothing. So every person that buys it, even a tank of gas, is offset by the amount of people that spend zero, and that average comes down. You don't see that behavior with the out-of-town people. They're generally spending because they don't have any other place to get, they can't get food at their house. They don't have their favorite gas station on Colfax or whatever, right? So they're more likely to make a transaction. But the point is, there is still value in trying to get those people from Denver to make the transactions, right? Because they will spend approximately the same, once they do.
But doesn't this also include, you know, a car full of 6 people, and so one person is making the transaction and the 5 others are all staring at their phone?
It could be, and we would see that pattern, but we don't know how many people they're paying for, but that still should be reflected in the average ticket, right? So if someone's buying a whole family worth of stuff versus themselves, it'll bring that average ticket up, right? So that could be part of the behavior. Regardless, you know, there's still a value in this customer base, right? Once they make a transaction, it's pretty similar to everyone else. The other thing is, I would like to point out the spend amount. They've spent $22 million. So 22 times 5, because this is only 20% sample, right? If we assume that is right, that's $100 million has come from people in Denver. You know, the same Dallas Fort Worth, which is our largest out of state customer base, has spent 500, right? 1,000. right? So even if you multiply that, it's 2.5 million. So it's still the largest consumer segment by far, even if we do have a ton of zeros, right, in that group. Next slide. Okay, so the spending shift, so this is the big change, and I think this is what's hurting Georgetown. Going along, and this is a little bit difficult to read, can you actually just go to this next slide, it's a little bit easier. So this is just for your information, those dots, basically the triangle is this year to date, on the percentage of the revenue that comes from each place. This is broken down a little bit, you can just go to the pie chart, it's gonna be too hard to read on that screen. The pie chart, so. This is year to date, so I can only get a quarter at a time, so the last quarter I have is through June. Dining is up 10%. Hotel and lodging is down 22%, retail is down 13%, and other is up 3%. Other is primarily fuel and entertainment, entertainment being recreational services.
And this is just Georgetown.
No, this is, I can only get it for the county.
Okay,
And the
okay.
reason that is
That's fine.
because I'm working with Visa right now, they love using zip codes. Our towns aren't big enough to have their own zip code, so we're pulling in all this unincorporated, so if I tell you what your spend is, it's actually pulling in a much larger. Cause your zip code includes Silver Plume, it includes, or parts of Silver Plume, it includes. Zip codes are kind of terrible, and because they're not really designed for anything other than the postal service. But it's the easiest data that they have to go off of, so, when I'm working with them to try to cut it down to just the municipalities, but it's gonna be a very manual process because they can't. There's no like, nothing in transactional data that tells you the town, right?
This is Visa only.
This is just Visa, okay, but Visa is the largest credit card transaction company.
Okay.
And they constitute about 20 to 25% in any given year of the transactions in the county. So we feel like it's a very representative sample, so. We're just trying to show, that's what we're just showing the proportion here, right? And it also tracks cash withdrawals on Visa debit cards, but we don't put that in this data because we don't know where they spent it. We know they pulled it out here, but that doesn't mean they did anything else with it here, right? And that kind of makes the numbers not trustworthy. So this is very specific. This is in-person transactions on Visas, in like hard businesses in the county, including online sales to specific businesses in the county, but not generalized online transactions like Amazon. Okay. So, you guys know your business portfolio pretty well. Georgetown is very exposed to drops in hotel and retail, right? You have a lot of retail, you have the most lodging of any town. I think that this is probably part of the reason why your visitation numbers are dropping, and we've seen this pattern across the state. People are shifting away from, and it's that economic uncertainty thing, right? They'll go get dinner still, and then some people are even substituting hotel and date and hotel trips for going out and getting dinner and coming home, right? Because people are spending less money across the board, tourism is across the board down. But for us, because we're close and because we're more affordable, we're up, the county is up 10% on sales tax revenue over last year. Because of this shift in people's behavior, right? Less people going through the tunnel. We are seeing huge increases in visitation, but it's much more affordable visitation for people in the metro as opposed to the more expensive traditional vacations. Next slide. Okay, so Georgetown 4th of July. So this is what I have so far. I did 4th this year, 4th last year. I also did the whole weekend, which is Thursday to Sunday for both years. Okay, so you're down a little bit from last year. Visit to visitors, no one, according to the cell phone, actually came to Georgetown twice. In the same day, which is fairly typical, right? Events you rarely see in entering and out within the same day. So we say the same number of visitors to visits, right? That's down about 8% from last year. The weekend was down more, again, on those unique visitors, but not down as much on visits, right? So it's less people coming back more often, right? And we saw this exact same pattern in the county. We saw this exact same pattern in Idaho Springs, right? It's this transitioning to this day tripping kind of deal. The other, but we do know from our Airbnb data, at least in unincorporated, that we were booked out that weekend. So there's potential that people were staying at Airbnbs and just coming down twice. You know, it's hard to say, but we are seeing that shift away from the visits, and the visitors usually are tracking together. They're starting to separate, and they're starting to separate pretty significantly. The other issue that we saw in Idaho Springs specifically, and I don't know if that's true here or not, is that there's actually starting to be a limit on how many people the town can hold at one time. Like Idaho Springs is capped out, they can't grow anymore. So now what they're seeing is that they have events come in, they're just offsetting normal business, right? Because the parking can't handle it, right? So if a parking lot is full, that car is full, no one can park, then it's an opportunity cost problem at that time, right? That customer is now split between two things, right? I don't know if that's happening here, but it seems like on event days, the town's ability to handle more people, especially if they stay longer. So this is becoming a strategic conversation about turn, right? So what this is tracking, and the only thing Placer tracks is what the phone is doing, right? So if someone is staying in the town longer, it means they're holding a parking spot longer, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean they're spending more money, but they might. But it also means that you're potentially preventing another person from using that spot, right? So these infrastructure problems start creating basically a ceiling in which that you either need to turn people over faster, which is like the fast food model, right? They make less money per burger, but they sell twice as many, right? Or you just need to make sure that the people that are taking those spots up for 100 and 120, 140 minutes on average are spending money the entire time they're here, because the alternative is that they're just taking that spot away from someone, a new customer, right? So infrastructure limits are a real deal, especially for us, and we're starting to see that across a lot of not just Idaho Springs, but trailheads. Like once you hit that capacity, that additional growth is just gone, right? You kind of can't grow more, right? So growth isn't the only way to generate more revenue, right? Higher end goods or, more spending is always good, right? It's just something to think about, and that's potentially the reason why. We definitely saw that in Idaho Springs, where the mountain bike parks parking was starting to offset the ability for some businesses in the core of that town to get more customers, because now those spots are just, and those cars sit a long time. I will say the success of Fourth this weekend was your average dwell increased a lot. An average of about 30 minutes. People stayed an average of 30 minutes longer than they did the previous year. The other thing I will say on Fourth is I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. The other thing, the 4th of July is generally, 4th of July is in general underperform if they're on a weekend, if they're on a weekend or if they're hedging a weekend, right? Because we get more visits on weekends anyway, right? So there is a potential that like on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, if 4th falls on that day, the event actually brings in proportionally less people than what if it's on a Tuesday, because people are here anyway. So in Idaho Springs, for example, they saw more people on the Saturday after than the 4th, because that's when the people come anyway. So with events, especially on holidays that shift, their performance a lot of times is dictated by where they fall in the week. They do better and are more effective at bringing in customers that wouldn't otherwise be here on days when they're not here anyway, right? So when they fall on weekends, things like that they kind of are just, there's less return on investment generally, because you're just on one setting, one group of customers for another group of customers, especially if you're infrastructure lot.
So for the 4th, do you have data that shows what the average length of time spent?
Yes, I can bring that, show that to you guys.
Okay.
I can pull it up right now if you need to. I can show you that. Next slide. So I pulled off, I just looked at downtown, thinking that potentially that artifact of that visitation drop was because of the lack of traffic on 70 constituting less visits to Circle K, which is just making this number kind of weird. So I pulled downtown, included the visitor center, but didn't include Georgetown Market or any other fueling stations. Kind of the polygon goes from visitor center down past the old saloon and then into the traditional Sixth Street downtown area. So we saw less of a drop. So some of that percentage change, that percentage drop is, I think, an artifact of just less traffic on 70 in general. But we still saw for the day itself, so the people that came largely came to downtown for 4th of July, which is good. And so the decrease wasn't as extreme. The other thing is, but the weekend change was still pretty acute, right, to downtown for the whole weekend. So we're still seeing a problem in general, but again, that's largely retail. We know retail is down statewide. So it might not be anything specific that Georgetown did, and just a background effect of what's happening with the economy. Next slide. So then who people are going to. So this is Georgetown in general. So this is the whole weekend. And this one I want to point to. So what this is the bolded lines are the type of business, the category. This is what the feds use to track transactions. I don't know if I've said this before, but this was set in the 50s. So it's not particularly, some of the classifications are a little weird. But basically, this is what I'm talking about. Gas station convenience stores constitute 67% of the visits, right? And that's just the volume, right? Now, your next highest performer are bars and pubs and just traditional stores, right? But that visitor center also does a huge amount of visits, right? So proportionally, this is across business categories where the people came and where the businesses that they entered, right? Now, again, gas is a numbers game. So if your metric of success is business, is visits, they're always gonna win, because one, it's essential, mostly. And two, they just serve thousands of people a day, because you can sell $100 tank of gas in 5 minutes. You can't sell $100 worth of food in 5 minutes, right? So they're always gonna turn customers faster, right? So this is just here for transparency on how y'all's business portfolio might be affecting some of these metrics. But this is fairly common for small municipalities because of, especially on interstates, because the gas station churn is so intense. That you do see a lot of your visit count going.
So is this true? This is a county metric or Georgia?
No, this is true. This is that weekend.
Oh, that weekend. And
The
so
4th of July.
does Idaho Springs see a similar?
They're a little bit, they do proportionally better with restaurants because they have more of them,
Right.
but they still see, I think, 40-something% of their visits. So this looks at everything. Once someone enters the market, so the market is Georgetown or Idaho Springs or the county, this counts every business they go into,
Okay.
right? So it's not just like the first one. Like if they go and get gas and then go into, it counts in both. So if I gave you the raw numbers and added it up, it would be a lot more than your visits, right? Because someone, once they enter a polygon, can go to multiple locations. So really what you're concerned about here is the proportionality. What businesses are transactions are driving people through the door at a higher rate than others. Now, some of it is just an artifact of the type of business that they are.
Sure.
Restaurants can never turn customers like gas stations can. Not sit down restaurants anyway.
Understood.
Right, and Chick-fil-A might be able to, but just because of the nature of the business. So just trying to be very transparent about this. This is not the only way to look at this. This is just one way to show that how your volatility in your visitor data, I think has to do with just the decreased traffic on 70 past the junction, right? Because of those churns on gas stations. But again, conversations with your businesses definitely help as far as who saw revenue, who didn't see revenue. But generally speaking, retail is really getting hurt, lodging is really getting hurt. So some of that is just background economics, right?
Thank you.
Any questions on this?
Colton, I have one.
Yeah,
Where would hotel repairs fall?
hotels, I guess how you're classified. But that's just because of what it is. Again, it's an artifact of the,
So even though we're not lodging?
yes, because of the way that the feds do this.
Okay,
I can pull your business specifically and just have a conversation with you about it. Generally, in public settings, I don't name businesses. Because it's just, it puts me in a little bit as a publicly funded person, it puts me in a little bit of a weird position, but I don't mind talking about to the owners themselves about their business. I just can't publicly talk about your business, because then your competitors potentially can have it, right?
Is recreation on here?
Inside Georgetown?
No, inside Georgetown, I guess it wouldn't be that.
No, generally not. On the counties, we have key, at the countywide metrics I'm watching this, we have key recreational areas tagged. But given that 75% of the county is public land, I can't really just tag
Sure.
75% of the county as recreational. But I have things like the railroad, Loveland, St. Mary's Trailhead, some of the bigger Forest Service trailheads, Manila Pass generally. Some of the bigger trailheads within Manila Pass to sea, and we're getting overrun.
So what about our lake and the use of the lake? How do you?
I can definitely tag that as
Yeah.
recreational thing if you guys want. I don't have it as anything in there.
I think it should be.
Absolutely.
Sure, okay.
That's,
Cause there's so much going on down there and it's very recreational oriented and that's how I would see it.
well, it's also an area that is still available for development
Well, I'll tell
to a
you.
degree, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, the hotel and Cabin Creek are in here, but the lake itself and I guess the Bighorn Sheep viewing area, I have is just infrastructure, not as anything. I can definitely add that if you guys would like to see that.
Where would art galleries be listed under?
Oh, art galleries, I think just general retail, but let me look really quick.
Oh,
We have museums.
Yeah. I
I know, they're
and
kind of-
unfortunately,
they are
these
stated-
classifications made more sense in the fifties, right? For example, right?
Yeah, like, what
They
distance?
consider Cabin Creek a bar, right? Because you can only have one, but a lot of businesses do multiple things. And when these were set up, it was around like your primary, you know, and businesses changed a lot since then, and so these can get difficult, of course. So I generally stick with the bolded categories, because once you get to the subcategories, things get a little strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's power cord. My computer's died. I get mine.
You're assuming all our outlets are.
Oh,
Or you may have to be on this side.
I wanted to pull up those visit. There's a plug over here. Yeah.
Craig or Paul, you're online. Do you have any questions for Colton? If you're still online? Can we?
I do not.
Can we go- Oh, thanks. Questions from our Zoomers? As opposed to our boomers? That would be no.
Let me get to.
Can you put us back to, Kasia, can you put us back to our Zoom call for our meeting, please? Postal Services. Visitations,
Oh, man, for some reason people use them.
I know. Most government, so they have to protect their.
Okay, so average dwell in market. So average dwell in market for this last weekend was 121 minutes. Median stay in market was 35.
And that's for July.
George, for the July 4th weekend, the third, in this case, the 3rd to the 6th, but on days of the week, Thursday to Sunday, right?
So now 2 hours.
Yeah, that was the average, which means that
Yeah.
people who, that's actually really high, because if anyone goes and gets gas and leaves, you're bringing that number down, which is why we have the median in here too. The median is just the middle number is only 35. So half the people that stayed less than 35 minutes. Half the people stayed more than 35 minutes, but the people who stayed more than 35 minutes stayed a long time, right?
Pick another weekend, just for
So,
comparison.
Yes, so I'll pick another weekend. Let's just do the previous weekend in July. Or sorry, June, yeah. 26th to the,
So it sounds like people are dropping off at Idaho Springs, right, because we're saying it counts through Empire or down, it counts if the Eisenhower Tunnel or down.
so the previous weekend, the average stay in market was 93 and the median stay in market was 21.
21 minutes?
Yeah. So 93 minutes, 21 minutes, the 4th of July was 122 minutes and 35 minutes,
So we
right? So,
would double that.
yeah, so you're doing good at first, events are good at keeping people to stay longer, but just with the conversation with Idaho Springs, I would encourage y'all to think about that parking churn. Right, because getting people to stay longer, if it doesn't necessarily result in more revenue, might not be the best use of your infrastructure, if you're infrastructurally limited, right? Now, it's just something to think about. I'm not saying that's what happened. We definitely know what happened in Idaho Spring because it was very clear. Here, it's a little harder to figure out if that's actually what's happened, right? But given the limited amount of parking, I think it could be. And then the previous 4th of July, I think, and that's what I looked at before, the 2024 one.
I think this is just down here in general.
I
mean, it's statewide.
yeah, it is. So the state's not doing well at all.
Yet the day of, people felt, the community felt that we had a larger amount of attendance and people staying longer. I mean, there was that impression. Now, the data doesn't necessarily, of course, it doesn't show.
Stay longer, we know
Yeah,
that.
you know, we're not looking at the, you know, windows of time kind of thing, nor
Right.
do I wanna get down into the weeds, but there was, you know, from other anecdotal information,
People did
It
stay
appeared-
longer.
yeah, it appeared that there was.
And we had more events this year.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, your average, so your average went up about 30 minutes over a normal weekend, and then even from the previous 4th of July, your average went up 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but in the average, it actually is a lot, because you have so many people who are in like less than 5 minutes.
Right.
So that's always bringing it down, so you have to have people stay a really long time to push that number up, right? So your average dwell time for that weekend is closer in line to what we would see at a trailhead in St. Mary's, where people are walking 8 miles,
Yeah.
right? So that's actually fairly good for a town. You don't usually see dwell times that long. Unless they're, because gas stations and other faster transactions bring the average down.
Right.
The dwell time, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, cause we got a full agenda. I
Yeah.
don't wanna cut you off,
No.
but if anyone has any questions, Paul, Craig, online, Gary, Kevin,
I'm good.
questions from the audience, could you please share that
Yes.
with us via,
Yeah, she has it.
okay, and then you can,
And any
Send
other
it out to
questions, you guys can always feel free to reach out. I'm happy to have conversations with anyone about specific things that I can't talk publicly about.
Thank you.
About their own business.
I think.
Yeah.
Colton, I love that. And thank you very much for this.
Okay, next item up, tourism marketing grant proposal, Craig, are you still with us?
Am I still with you? Yes.
You're up. Item number 2.
I don't know.
tourism Grant proposal.
I'm not sure why this has my name next to it.
Okay, so are we,
It's a loose end that somebody needs to pick up, from Jess.
okay, give us the, 2-minute elevator speech on this.
Uh,
90
it's
seconds.
it's a grant program through CTO. And Jess has presented this to us before.
Right.
It's a grant program through CTO. We just need to have somebody who picks the ball up over the next 2 or 3 months, however long it takes us to determine our path forward, and make sure that we're not I think the application date is in September, if I'm not mistaken. It should be in Jess's last report, which I don't have in front of me, but I would encourage staff to reach out and or read Jess's files.
Absolutely.
You're on that. Thank you. Okay, item number 3, BPC ordinance amendment. It's in your packet with some changes. Craig, are you comfortable presenting this, or would you prefer to have Dennis hit the highlights?
No, I don't have any interest in presenting this. Thank you.
Okay. Dennis, can you go over there's a
Sure.
summary here that he included, and then. Go ahead.
Sure, we met with Craig, was it last week? We talked about this. My memo is pretty self-explanatory on two of the changes that we're recommending, and that is the original deletion of the supervisory role. And then the memorandum also outlines the clarification of staff support items, and you can see that as the addition, red line addition at the end. And then during our discussion with Craig, he requested that we also delete the items that were outlining for spending. Currently, the ordinance does not allow any spending of public funds for BPC tasks or projects without approval of the Board of Selectmen. This is not in line with our current purchasing policies or the way any of the other boards and commissions operate. And so by deleting the section under item A, that would bring them in line with all the other boards and commissions. What I would do is basically allow expenditures to occur with the approval of the town administrator up to $10,000. And then anything above 10,000 has to be brought before the Board of Selectmen. And that's the way we typically do any other expenditures throughout the town. So those are the 3 amendments that we're recommending that the Board of Selectmen consider at their next meeting.
Craig, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
Kevin, Paul, Gary, do you have any questions? Do you have any discussion, comments?
No, I don't.
So, as you remember, and Dennis pointed out, this ordinance change was on the agenda for the Board of Selectmen a couple of months ago. It was pushed back so BPC could have time to review and have some input. Are you ready to make a recommendation?
Who are you asking?
I am asking the entire commission.
I'd love to hear from somebody other than myself.
Sure. I feel comfortable with this, especially in light of Craig, Mary, and Dennis getting together and hatching it out. So it seems like it's had a lot of eyes on it. I see the evidence right here in this packet, so I'm comfortable with moving it along.
Yeah, all right, well.
Paul, do you have anything to add?
I'm sorry, I had to switch over. I'm dealing with an emergency. No, this is the packet that we were working on for the last couple of months. I'm in. I think it's great. And I do think that some of the, if this is the one I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's good. I just want to double check to make sure this one deals also with the staff changes and how we've been seeing that differently than we did. So I remember the packet that we've been working on for the last couple of months. You can say that. I need to pull up this thing. Hold on. I'm trying to.
Okay.
Jeez, sorry. This is.
I guess, well, Paul,
I'm-
go ahead, Paul, if you found it.
No, I just looked away for a second. That's all. Go ahead.
Well, I guess just to kind of bring this to a finer point, this is, I don't know that it's absolutely necessary for us to make a recommendation. I mean, if the board's requesting one, that's fine. This is a policy question brought to the Board of Selectmen by staff. I appreciate that the board has asked us for our opinion on it. I guess I'm just not sure that we have a lot to say about it necessarily, though, if that makes sense. I mean, it's obvious that this has gotten a lot of legs. I'm still not completely convinced it's necessary in its totality. I certainly understand the inconsistency with other administrative and personnel policies. So that for me is the only legitimate reason to consider this. And that's not really our consideration, it's the board's consideration.
Okay, I'm ready. Craig, thank you for that. My opinion is that because there's that shift from that thing we were looking at earlier in the year with regard to oversight and a couple other things in here, I think that might be why we were asked to give our recommendation of it, because it shifts our oversight view. However, whatever we need to do, I vote that we recommend if we're doing that. So there we are. And then I'm not going to be able to look at anything for the next few minutes.
No worries.
Okay, so I won't ask you to do that. So
Thanks.
if the commission wants to make a recommendation or does not, I believe that the intent is for this to go on the next agenda for the Board of Selectmen. That would be first hearing. It doesn't come to be until, as you know, the second hearing when it's passed. So we can either take a recommendation or we can close this after discussion and let the course be taken.
I guess I'm trying to glean if any of the other members have strong feelings one way or another on this. Again, I don't think it's for us to determine or recommend regarding personnel policy for the town. That's what this is a personnel policy question. And so for us to make a recommendation around personnel policy is kind of weird. It either is or it isn't a personnel issue, the personnel policy issue, and that's really something for the board to address. I for one am concerned, and Dennis knows this, so I'm not shocking anybody. I'm concerned about how this is going to functionally work. And that's my hesitation around it. I agree with it from a personnel management perspective, but I am concerned about how it's actually going to play out. And Dennis has assured myself and Mary that it's going to be great. But I've also pointed out, and Mary's pointed out, that it might be great with Kasia and Dennis, but Kasia and Dennis are, no offense, guys, you're here for the shorter term and most of us are here for the longer term. And we'll deal with the consequences of that through the investments in our businesses, and in our buildings and our general lives. So it's got to be something that's bulletproof for the next guy who's going to be in that town administrator or assistant town administrator role. And that's where my concern lies. Now, having said that, I also pointed out in the last conversation that I had with those guys that we're under no obligation to actually hire an employee to do the functions of the marketing and events coordinator. We can contract that stuff out too. It doesn't say, the ordinance doesn't say we shall hire somebody, it says we may. And it does not preclude us from hiring a contractor, although that would obviously get approved by the Board of Selectmen too. So I mean, if we just want to pull the pin on this, I'd make a motion that we inform the Board of Selectmen that we think the proposed changes to the ordinance reflect sound personnel policy and create consistency with other town departments and boards and commissions.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 4, marketing events coordinator job description. We have this in the back. What are you laughing about?
No, I think we just passed the motion. It's going to recommend that the town administrator take a first pass at it and come back with any recommended changes.
I don't see our, oh, here it is.
I
Last-
personally don't see any weaknesses in the current job description. I think it's
I'm not
exhaustive.
sure if at this particular meeting, this is the best place to, if everyone hasn't looked at this, I think there's gonna be a possibility for a lot of changes with the recent resignation of our marketing events person and where BPC wants to go with it. And Craig mentioned just a few minutes ago about a contract situation. I know we experienced that in the past. I don't think that's the example that we necessarily want to follow, and that by itself creates a lot more discussion than just rubber stamping this job description. But that's me.
I kind of agree with that.
However, we don't want to delay progressing towards having our marketing and events represented. And there's a lot of questions, and some of this was discussed at the previously mentioned meeting that Craig, myself, and Dennis had about responsibilities being picked up on a temporary basis by staff. And so I think those action points are perhaps a little bit more important than this job description right now.
I would agree.
So do we want to table the job description? Because right now we're not ready to move on that because of the greater picture, or is there any input that anyone has on it?
Well, I don't, did we put it on the agenda to make specific changes? I mean, I didn't ask for it to be on the agenda. I'm not sure who did.
So that by itself starts to bring up the problems that we're going to be having as Business Promotion Commission continues on its path if we're not coordinating efforts in preparing our agenda and our meeting and our purpose and our gathering here on a monthly basis. If we've got 14 items on here and we're not even sure why half of them are on.
I can speak to the job description.
Okay, please.
This position is now vacant. And so staff needs to know what the PPC in particular, one of the boards that deals with this position would like to do going forward. Instead of just letting it sit, I need to have some input as to where we go from here. So it's on the agenda to be discussed. If the thought of the BPC is that you'd like to take a step back and reevaluate whether or not there should be a marketing and events coordinator position, or whether you'd like to investigate hiring a consultant or whatever, then I would like to hear that from the group. Or whether you'd like to say to me today, this job description looks great, let's move forward with filling that position, and then we'll take the next many months or year to investigate a reevaluation of how this board works. Great, but I don't think that we can just sit still and let things percolate the way they are. So I'm looking for some direction. And if the board doesn't want to provide that direction, I can go to the Board of Selectmen and ask them for direction as well, because ultimately they're the deciding body.
I haven't had a chance to read all this yet, so.
So the big question on the table is, are we putting an ad out that we're getting ready to hire a new events and marketing coordinator? Let's keep it
Okay.
simple.
Well, that's not the item on the agenda. So
Well,
if I for one, and I'm just speaking for myself, I don't see a need to revamp the job description. I think it served us well in our last search, and I don't see any reason why it won't serve us well in this search. We spent a lot of time on it last time. More you guys than me, obviously, because I was a new guy. But I mean, it was very well thought out. It's very detailed. There's not a lot of gray area in there. So if I would suggest we dispense with the question about modifying the job description and move to the question of, do we want to move forward with pursuing, advertising and looking for candidates to replace Jess.
so that's the question, and that's the discussion that we need to have. Are we prepared to have this now? Because if BPC wants some input on this, are we gonna sit on our hands for another month, or are we going to proceed with continuing our jobs or starting a job search?
No, we should proceed with starting a job search.
The only thing that is catching my attention in this job description is this process lake and park reservation. That seems kind of random. It's not what I think of when it comes to marketing. That looks procedural. So I wonder if we should strike that.
Well, I have an opinion about that, Kevin. A statement and an opinion. The statement is that was never actually passed on to the marketing and events person until Jen Yabsky resigned. And at that point, it became part of Jess's function. Although those fees were, I agree with you. I think we should strike it if those fees are all going to go to, because all those fees are deposited someplace other than the BPC's account. And if BPC is paying the salary for that person, then, we should either be collecting a portion of the revenue for the administration of those, or we shouldn't be doing it all. Now, having said that, I think it makes some sense for the marketing and events person to be very engaged in that. Because that's an area where we could stand to improve our monetization of the visitors that we're bringing here. We've seen a pretty strong evolution in the form of those lake use permits, particularly the winter ones. It's a much different demographic than it was 10 years ago. And it's one that's got money, and that's one that's willing to spend that money in our community. So, and I for one see that as a primary function of our marketing and events person. If we're going to change anything in that job description, I'd change the title. Because I don't think marketing and events coordinator really captures what I see that position doing for BPC in the community going forward.
Another thing that's kind of in flux is this says manage the commission's website, and we're talking about getting rid of that website or massaging it into the town's town government website, so that could be a little misleading. However, things change all the time. The job description that I was given 15 years ago wouldn't fit me today. And so I think this is just basic framework. And then life happens and things change. So.
I agree.
Having said that, I think we should fill the position. I hate to see a vacant position because then could become furloughed and then disappear.
So if we strike these couple items, we could approve this today, correct? And move onward.
I would think so. Craig, do you feel that if we're striking process lake and park reservations so that we're getting out of the application business, but the rest of the marketing and events management that goes on with those events, do you feel that that's fairly covered in the other bullets throughout this job description?
I do. I guess I'd like to hear maybe from Kasia, how she sees that, because I don't want to create a tug of war internally with staff. I want it to be very clear who's in charge of what, and whether it's just if the administrator's office is going to hold that process close the way they have in the past, then we just simply need to put it out there that we want to be coordinated with and communicated with on that. If the administrator's office doesn't want to hold that close as they have in the past, then I'm fine leaving it in the job description.
Okay, so unfortunately, Kasia has just left the room, so I can't ask her to respond to this question. However, we do have our town administrator still here, and so it would be at his direction. So if you could just share your thoughts on how that piece would function and be the information shared.
So, I mean,
If
let
we're,
me see if I try to say this a different way to clarify. And this would be just how we process the lake and park reservations.
Doesn't that, it seems to me like that should be
that's more of a
Parks and Rec,
function.
Yeah,
although there's
Correct.
overlap because our events are typically in their territory. It's in Strauss Park, or it's at the lake, or it's at Town Park. And so it seems like it needs to be shared
But
at
Parks
the very
doesn't,
least.
Parks doesn't process those applications either. The application is a clerical function that comes through town
yes.
hall.
And it used to be, my understanding is that it used to be the town clerk that did these.
Yes.
Can we give it back to the town clerk?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
let's do that.
Yeah, that would be
So the town clerk will process, do all the administrative work for these. And whoever wants to be notified, we will insert that as part of the process. So the BPC, if they want to report, if you want to report on all of these things that are going on at the lake, we will make that part of the process.
So you'll add that position.
Yes, I think that is a key thing that whoever needs to know, we make that as a regular thing.
Yeah, transparency,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So Craig, did that satisfy your question?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
And Paul, you do a lot of hiring. I'm assuming, it's been a while, but I'm assuming you helped to develop this job description, is that right? Mr. Boat?
he might be out.
You did.
This job description, so I dug back in my emails from when we interviewed for the last person that we hired. And it had gone through BPC and we all sat on this commission at that time. We all had the opportunity to give input to the town administrator at the time so that they could publish an ad. This was the result of that.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that.
So,
Yeah, let's move on.
okay.
Fill the
Well,
position.
so we've got one more thing to discuss on this, just real quick, as far as the title, the marketing and events coordinator. Are we changing the title? Because this is important when we are posting this as a job description. We fell into some issues with another position that we had in this town where the title
was influential in our applicants. So are we changing the title? Craig has suggested that we change the title. Do we have any other discussion about that?
Change it to what? Greg?
Well, it's really less a coordinator role and more of a management role. We do not have, we're not on top of this stuff every day doing the management of those events and the marketing. This person is expected to manage that process in both cases. And I think that does a better job of describing what's in that job description than coordinator does.
So marketing and events manager?
Mm-hmm. I also
Okay.
think we may attract a different category of potential candidates with that title as well.
Okay.
Does, Dennis, does that make sense in a hierarchy for the town administrator to be over a manager? Does that make sense?
Typically, when you use the word manager, it's because you're supervising people.
Not true.
And as long as the job description is clear in the fact that there is not supervision of other staff members, it'll be fine. And I agree with what Craig is saying in terms of managing different events. And there are volunteers involved, so that will be fine as long as the job description is explanatory in that way. The coordinator, I can see where that came in because you're coordinating the event. So it's neither here nor there, but typically the manager is used to indicate you're supervising staff.
Next question I have is, and I understand, Craig. Maybe manager sounds like it has more authority than coordinator, and we might get a different crop of people. But if we do, assuming that crop of people has more experience and more achievement, is what we're offering what they want? Are we paying enough? Are we overreaching by saying manager or coordinator for the amount of compensation? I just want to make sure it's all kind of in alignment.
Look, this is not an issue I have any interest in falling on my sword for. So I live out in the world, and I understand how people perceive titles.
Yeah.
And while I don't always, I think titles are overrated. There's a reality around them as well. And when you're sitting in a room full of your peers having a conversation, they may have a different interpretation of title and the importance of title than I do. And I think that's a reality. So that's all I'll say about that. It's not worth debating too awful long though.
Nice.
Paul, Paul, please, your opinion.
I'm sorry, I said that because this is the way this person is parked. I can't move. Yeah, I agree with Craig. I agree with Craig. However, I want to say two things. Yes, I was there for the job description, and so I agree with the things that we're taking out of there. I think that it's ridiculous to do to do all the permitting now that we've seen how the job works. And then the other thing is, it should be manager. The person manages contractors and outside, and then coordinates and manages outside groups. So that's why I think manager is an appropriate title to this. And I agree with Craig that titles do matter. Sometimes they matter more for your CV than your actual pay. So they're going to see their pay and know it. The law in Colorado is you show the pay rate anyway. So that should weed out people who think that it's not enough. So
Okay,
there you are.
that's fair. Great.
Okay, so we're changing the coordinator to manager, and we're striking the process lake and park reservations. I believe that was the majority of the discussion. Kevin, thank you for really going through this.
And we'll inform the applicants that the commission's website is in flux. And that whole thing may change. So just so they know that's coming.
Okay,
Is that fair?
Sounds good.
is everybody on with that? For the sake
Yes.
of For the sake of the meeting, let's, someone make a motion to recommend accepting this job description with the changes.
I make a motion to update the job description. With the
Changes mentioned.
changes, suggestions that we've made.
Second,
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Sorry, who's running this meeting? Old patterns, people.
it's all right, all right.
Sorry.
Come on, let's zip through this. We got 45 minutes or less.
I did it for 2 years.
Okay, appointment of interview panel rep. I would like to defer this, or just let me share this. We have an existing policy in the town that that handles the hiring for this position. It's not in your packet.
I feel really stupid, but.
My,
Panel rep.
I think we're talking an interview for the events and marketing. person,
Oh,
right?
I see.
Okay.
Oh, I got it, I got it.
You need a representative.
I got
So,
it.
so a person from this commission needs to sit in on the interview panel. Is there a person here who wants to volunteer for that? Craig, Paul? Do either of you want to volunteer? Because I can't see your little smiling faces, so that's why I'm calling you out.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that fine? Yes, you're interested in sitting in on that position, in those interviews?
Yeah, I'm assuming the town administrator will be on that
Yes.
panel as well.
He will coordinate that in addition with other people according to the existing policy, unless that's changed. But, so you're interested in being on the interview panel to represent BPC, Craig Abrahamson.
Sure. Yes.
Great,
Sure.
okay, moving on.
Thank you.
Budget, year-to-date and schedule. You have a budget worksheet in front of you. Again, I think for us to digest this right now, for the sake of time, is asking a lot. But let's take a minute or two to just kind of review it, and if you have any questions, we will pose the questions to our town administrator, and he will follow up with answers at another time, because we don't have the treasurer here to
Yeah,
give us any nitty gritties.
I have a question.
Okay,
Where do we stand with collecting from short-term rentals?
Short-term rental.
that would be the lodging tax.
Lodging tax, we used to talk at length about, to be specific, Airbnb, not submitting lodging tax, and then it was on the
It was actually the company
owner.
Airbnb.
Yeah, the company.
I'll give you, I'll find that out for you and,
Any progress been made? I
this
know
is the last sales tax revenue report that was given to the board of selectmen. So I'll give that to you, but I will follow up with the report that Bridget will have for.
Okay,
short-term rentals.
because, yeah, Mary Sims was in really deep, trying to make contacts with these companies that were very dismissive
Yeah, that would not, yes.
of us as a municipality, which is shocking to me. And it just hasn't been discussed since her departure. And we still need that money.
It has been discussed.
Has it?
Board of
Okay.
Selectmen, yes.
Okay, good. That's good to know.
We talked
Because
about
he
it
used to
at
come
our
to this-
session.
Okay, good.
And the way that Bridget is processing this
Okay.
now is she's regularly monitoring those websites so that she can compare those with what we have licensed.
Fantastic.
And when there's discrepancy,
Yeah.
she's sending notices to them.
Okay.
And
Are they responding?
sometimes they do, and sometimes we send letters threatening fines so that if they don't come in and get their licensing, or if they are illegally operating on their short-term rental, then they have to cease and desist.
But we're talking apples and oranges here. You're talking about the lodging tax.
No, it's not
revenue, no?
apples and oranges to me. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing
Yeah.
to the point, then we get to the point where we have to then collect that tax.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's all part of one big.
Why is Bridget doing it, not Q? Just curious, because the last time the treasurer did it. Why is the clerk doing it?
Because we have to start with who they are first to find out
Okay.
where we're collecting from, but they're working together.
Together, okay, that's good. All right. I I'm satisfied.
But I will follow up with that, so where we stand in
Yeah.
terms of receipts.
Continues to concern.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So this worksheet is for the first close to 6 months through May 31st, if this is correct.
That information is provided for you to have as a reference, but I wanted to also point you to the schedule. So then you can know what to expect in terms of our budget development. You can see that at the bottom of the memo. So on August 23rd, that's coming up. We're gonna put together a draft annual report and proposed budget for you so that you can start that work and keep us on schedule. We're a little bit behind in terms of the calendar, but we're gonna try to catch you up. So we can meet the deadlines that are spelled out in the ordinance.
So prior to our next meeting, we will have a draft that's been proposed, at least by staff, that we as a commission can review
Yeah,
and discuss.
We're gonna work really hard to try to.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions about that?
No.
Okay, moving on. Gateway conversation. Mike Huggins has left the building, so we're gonna strike that at the moment unless anyone has any information
No.
from him. Same with the branding plan. 6th Street resiliency. Craig, do you have anything that you wanna bring up at this point?
Yeah, I'd love a status update on our 3-hour parking signs.
Okay, Dennis, 3-hour parking
Yeah,
signs.
we contacted the sign company after our meeting and they said that we should be able to pick them up this week. We have our fingers crossed, so we're just waiting for notification that they're in the warehouse down on Santa Fe and sure.
So it's a local Denver company, and so we'll pick them up and then we will have a expedited process in having them posted.
Yeah, the question I wanted to ask, especially to Craig, do you want to be part of locating where they're gonna be stuck in the ground?
No,
Okay,
I'd like to be involved in, the 400 block.
okay.
In that section.
So when we put that on the work schedule for that day, I'll reach out to you and say.
Please.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just, I wanna look at redundancy, visual clutter. And then I'm a bit protective about the buff colored sandstone pavers because those are historic, they're red or not, but I don't want any holes in in those sandstone pavers if they're the old ones, so I would like to be.
there's probably,
Yeah.
I mean, I personally don't see a need to install any new posts for these. We have plenty of parking related signs on 6th Street and the surrounding streets as it is. I think we can just probably be swapping signs or utilizing existing signposts. But I think it's great, Kevin, if you can be involved, that's great because you've got a better eye for that visual clutter than I do.
Okay.
Well, let's just keep in mind that we're not posting so many signs on a post that the sign is like, 2 feet off the curb.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly, and yeah. I have some experience with installing signs, so.
yes, you do.
From Atlanta. Oh, other question. Dennis,
Yeah.
when it comes to the signs, I know that the striping in front of Hotel Paris indicates, it's white and it's on a diagonal, which confuses some people. Is that striping going to be removed and redone?
It's going to be redone. Would you like it removed first?
Well, I thought we were going to move the bus parking away from the hotel and that be short-term parking, this 3-hour stuff for vehicles. That's what I remember from discussion.
If you would like to get together and talk about
Yeah.
that, I'm open to that, but I don't think that there's been anything definitive decided on that. We can.
Let's talk about that because, yeah, I remember in this group, we talked about not having the buses parked there and idling there. And they can do a drop off somewhere. I don't know where, and I don't know where we'll move them.
That's the issue, right?
Yeah, like where do they go?
And considering the visitors that are coming in on the buses and not wanting them to have to walk a long distance to get to,
Yeah.
downtown.
So,
Yeah,
okay,
let's chat about that.
We
Yeah,
did discuss that.
yeah,
It was something I brought up and The drop off might be better off actually where we have parking in front of the county building. On that area across the street from, I don't know if it's too close for Vicinity, can't do across from the post office. Parking for the buses at one time I thought was on 7th Street. But if we could direct buses to drop off, go down, and then come back, that would be better than blocking off a business that completely, and also it keeps people from wanting to walk down in that direction. So that's why I've always thought that normal parking would be better in front of the hotel.
Yeah, I
If
agree.
we have cars at all.
Yeah.
I
And-
think we have to consider traffic flow at that location if you're talking about, especially because of our one-way situation and the just, there are other factors in this. And again, this is not this looks like a great idea. There's got to be some, regulations throughout the entire town, that it's not just this willy-nilly, I want no parking or a bus parked in front of my house. I mean, so this goes back to more of, some set policies and regulations that need to be coordinated throughout the town by the town administrator with road and bridge and all the factors that are to be considered. We're not gonna put a bunch of no parking signs in front of, Cabin Creek in the lake, whatever, so let's think this through on the bigger picture too.
It seems to
Sure,
me.
but you have a traffic person. We have a traffic person. So I think that those parts of it can be done by people who are, that do this as for a living. However, I have always wondered why it got regulated down to that part of the street. And I noticed that it was never in front of, let's say, Niceland Anderson. So there's what that consideration was is really confusing to me. 6th Street, having buses parked on 6th Street does not make sense. I understand a drop off somewhere because of people who can't necessarily walk that far, although we're not necessarily the best town for people who can't walk that far. But a parking or a long-term or even a drop off and no parking in front of one of the businesses, I think is detrimental. So if we can get people to look at that and then seriously move it along, because I think the first time that I was concerned about this was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's from, and by the way, this is from working in new urbanism, which involved a town, a neighborhood that was a town. So it comes from that.
Thanks, Paul. Kevin,
I'm gonna say
make your
one
comment,
more thing.
then I'm just gonna throw this out.
It seems like a better visitor experience would be for all the buses to drop off in front of the community center, that helps them with their mission, which is directing visitors and improving their stay. So it seems much more logical, plus visually looking down 6th Street instead of driving through it and looking back. It seems like that is more appealing and the infrastructure is there. That's all I'll say about it.
And there is that little space in front of the visitor center, the community center for 20-minute parking normally. So that could be a place. If anyone has any further comments or suggestions or opinions, please direct them to Dennis by the end of this week so that we can start to take some action on this. Anything else outside of parking on 6th Street resiliency?
Nope.
Okay,
Nope.
and I wasn't hurrying up so that Mary Smith could talk about Christmas market. Real fast, Christmas market, first 2 weekends in December, we are booked with vendors. We're planning the beer garden at Rue de Noël again, which is in the parking lot next to the Hotel de Paris, which we need to get, and this is we as in historic Georgetown. So I'm stepping out and I'm moving to a different chair here. There are some concerns that we have that need to be discussed with the town as far as vendors, certain type of vendors operating in the tent with food service because of some changes that were suggested by Safe Built last fall. Strauss Park is obviously going to be full as normal. Started conversations with the community center grill because they have moved their operations to Strauss Park for their
food service. Just to make, last year though, we had some rural traffic congestion, pedestrian traffic congestion with lines of people and not being able to access the vendors. So we're conscious of that. The plan is to have those wooden kiosks that Historic Georgetown and the town went in together on a partnership to be constructed on a temporary basis in the parking lot behind Strauss Park. That will be in our application. That was Christmas Alley last year. We're not going to have any street vendors on the street. The horse and wagon people, who are one of our big draws, had expressed and continue to express some concerns about the route, the horses, pedestrian traffic, people ignoring these huge animals coming down the street at them, and some traffic situations. It's a couple of key points that we will share with the town to help us try to manage that better for this year's Christmas market. And I bring this up because the town requires a certificate of liability insurance from all of the vendors because we're on town property. And it's a very legit concern from the horse and wagon operators that here they are in a very, precarious position with their critters and people and stuff. So anyway, that's it. We're having a meeting with Clear Creek Inn. They have some suggestions about how they can be a little bit more involved with Christmas market. And I'm thinking maybe from the, open drinking option that we offered last year, which was a huge success and did not have any problems with the county sheriffs from what they reported to us. And then, of course, we successfully had a smaller, operation for the historic home tour, and we didn't seem to have any problems with people strolling in a certain area that was sectioned off for drinking. So that's Christmas market.
Okay.
Commission members, standing, attracting, and alternates. So, as you may recall, we did accept a letter of resignation from Jessica Tribbitt. She has run out of time to dedicate to Business Promotion Commission, so we are down a member from her. In Justin Dowd's position, he was serving as an alternate, actually expired earlier this year, and we don't have anyone as an alternate right now. As you can see by the group that's in attendance, this is it, and we're pretty close to being concerned about a quorum if all of a sudden someone drops off the face of the earth for a meeting. So if you have any suggestions, or if people who are on the Zoom and listening have any interest in participating as a commission member, I strongly suggest that you email the town clerk and throw your name into the hat, and we would love to have you join this group.
Can I just bring up one point of clarification on this? I think it's been miscommunicated or misconstrued in the past. The membership requirements for BPC are very broad and vague. There's minimal requirements for business owners, minimal requirements for nonprofits. It's open to more than just business members, and frankly, it's open to more than just Georgetown business members. And so I just want to put that out there kind of on the record for everybody to hear that any interest in any interest should be conveyed to BPC for a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, and not necessarily filtered out.
Thank you. So, not for you all to take a peek at it at this moment, but you do have a copy of the ordinance from a previous discussion. And if you look at sections, the very first section, under that, you can see how it's spelled out who can be a member of this commission. And I'm specifically looking at 5.04.110E which says no less than 3 members of the commission shall be current holders in good standing of a town business license or officers or employees of a nonprofit organization which maintains a physical presence in the town. And then prior to that, it just outlines how many members are on this commission. So that just, I'm confirming what Craig said, not that he needed me to do that, but I'm just bringing it to your attention. Thanks, Craig. Anything else as far as BPC members? Thank you. Kiosk conversation, not quite sure why this is on here. Does anybody have any reason as to why this is on here?
No.
I'm not sure when but I do have an opinion. The informational, we'll call them sandwich boards that the town has, I've noticed mixed success with those. And by that I mean the locations aren't what I expected, the messaging isn't what I expected, the maintenance of them is not what I expected. And I'm wondering if we need something more permanent than these mobile sandwich boards. And there is a historic image, well, several of kiosks in Georgetown that could give us some inspiration for maybe a more permanent structure. There was one right here on the corner of Taos and 6th in what is now Happy Cooker. It used to be a photography studio, the Dalglish photography studio, and he had a triangular kiosk. I sent you the picture of it. And so I don't know if that's what this is about, but that's how I'm taking it. I have opinions on it. I think we should do it and have at least 1, maybe 3 downtown based on
As it pertains to those signboards that we purchased, I think it's worth mentioning that those were purchased with BPC funds, and they're for messaging consistent with BPC messaging needs and desires, and that's how they need to be used. I think they were commandeered a little bit during the one-way implementation, and so I think getting back to making sure that that is managed by BPC and or its representative, so that it's not a white piece of cardboard with magic marker on it, that it's actually a printed and thought out piece of messaging is relevant to this conversation. Although I do not know that it relates to the kiosk conversation, because staff presented the agenda to me and I assumed that staff had an idea what that would be and who it came from.
And maybe that's something that needs to be added to this job description, is the management of those sandwich boards. I don't know what the right term is, but
Yeah.
it wasn't what I expected.
Advertised in the events.
Well,
Are you talking about the portable ones?
yeah, the portable ones.
So,
One was supposed to be in this block, pointing the way to the public restrooms. That never happened. And then I think there was some wind damage of the one by the candy shop that was pointing into this block, and I was really happy. It was like more to do in the 400 block. And then I saw somebody dragging the pieces away, and it's gone now. So I just.
so for the sake of this meeting, especially since we don't have an events and marketing manager on staff right now, may I suggest that a member of this commission, perhaps Kevin, coordinate in a meeting outside of this commission with Dennis to get those portable heavy duty signs back in order. And we're still open. Georgetown is still open, and we want those managed better. Just to throw out there, I'm sure you already know this, but I know
He does the print.
he does some printing for it, so
Yeah,
you guys will follow up.
okay,
Okay, is everybody, Craig and Paul, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, moving on.
okay, cool.
Ducklers.
Absolutely.
So I just want to remind everybody that on Sunday, August 31st, Historic Georgetown is bringing back the duck race. Most everyone has, the merchants are on board with a duck in the race that supports a local nonprofit. The ducks are sold $5 a duck or a 6 quack for 25. I believe you all have these, but I'll pass them out. Gary, we will be hitting you up to get a duck in the race. There's no charge for the merchants to have their duck in the race. We do a business race at 11:45. We dump about 25 or 30 ducks. And the first, second, and third ducks to get to the end of the creek win money for their nonprofit. You pick your own nonprofit. And then at noon, we dump 1,000 ducks into the creek. And it takes about 20 minutes, but it actually takes longer than that. And then individuals can also win cash prizes for that. So there's some banners up on the rails near the creeks, and we're putting another banner up on Library Stage. We got permission from them to advertise, and we will be down on 6th Street, Historic Georgetown, on the day of the race to coordinate the race and last minute ticket sales. We dump by the old school at 809 Taos, across from the church. And it's a cute little community event. And the ducks come out of the water in the 1700 block of Clear Creek Drive, but from the water and before it hits the lagoon. So it's a real snazzy operation. Anyway, we just thank you all for your support. And Craig, we will be hitting you up for a duck to get a duck in the race. And
Okay.
Paul, got to have a couple of ducks in the race. And Gary got to have a duck in the race. And Kevin is the leader of the quack because he's already got a duck in the race. Oh, did you have a question, sir?
Like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You have a
I was
duck,
just making sure everyone knew.
you have a duck during the camera?
I have a fishing pole out this year.
I'm not quite sure, but some of our businesses that are represented right now on listening in on this meeting also have their ducks all in a row and in the race. So,
Yes, that's a question.
yes, the chair, the standing person here, yes. What? Oh.
That,
Oh.
quite.
Oh, I forgot.
Oh, no.
Okay.
You wanna buy a duck?
Oh, no, I remember.
Okay.
Yes.
Keep messing with me.
Oh, I forgot.
Ah!
Okay, moving on. The bell of the Alpine hose, for whom the bell tolls.
Oh, the bell has stopped ringing, folks. There's no ringing of the bell. The bell is off again. And it adds so much character to this town. Plus, I rely on it personally and professionally. I listen for the bell. Can we see what's wrong with the bell?
I could have sworn I just heard it a couple of days ago.
Yeah, me too. We'll check it out.
Yeah.
We'll know in 18 minutes. Well, actually 15 because it runs 3 fast.
It's 3 fast.
Yeah, which I like. It'd be okay if we reset it, but that gives me a cushion.
Gotcha. I heard it yesterday, so maybe.
Really, maybe it's just me,
Okay.
but you know, we had some power outages. I don't know if that affected it.
Maybe.
Just some power out.
Yeah, well, okay, so anyway, we could just look into
Yeah,
that.
we'll do.
Okay.
Anything else for the good of the order?
No,
Oh, you guys, I love you that were out of here this early. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
We'll make a motion that we're adjourning.
Gary made the motion. Who seconded?
Craig,
Kevin somebody is seconding this.
Hey, Mr. Vogt, are you seconding?
Paul, are you seconding? All in favor?
He said sure.
aye.
Bye.
I.
Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned at 9:42. Thank you
Um,
all.
Just as a
Yeah.
side note, while everybody's still on, Mountain Jams has been extended by a week, so we're doing the mariachis on the 20th. We're going to have some great groups coming in. We have another group coming, I think it's Kind Mountain Band on the 13th. This weekend is Megan Burt and her new country band Stone Pony. So check it out. We're going one more week. So thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. Okay, thanks guys for coming in. I think the.
Mary has a copy of this letter already, but I wanted you to have, this is a letter that I sent to the county about the Middle Pass.
Oh.
So you did send me that email about a month ago.
Yeah,
And I remember, I told you that I had sent that information, so I wanted you to have that.
that's great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And the, Colorado State Police are going to put troopers at the I-70 off ramps to direct traffic during the high traffic times, so we're going to probably end up paying them to do that. It's just a precaution so that traffic coming off the highway is not going to. Yeah, well, it's gonna back up, but
Kelly
it's
will be
being a
glad to
managed
hear
way.
that.
Okay, good.
He freaks out, Kelly freaks out when traffic gets backed up on the highway.
So right now, the way that we have it organized is the county sheriff is managing at the pass entrance up. The state's gonna manage the highway access, and then the town's we're gonna finalize our own plan for between those points inside the town this week.
Makes sense.
And then we're gonna give that to the board, and then they're gonna look it over and say, you're on the right track, or you're full of crap, Dennis, go back to the drawing board. Hopefully we'll be on the right track.
Okay. That's wonderful.
And then, yeah, we're gonna talk about the parking lot today, but if we have time, maybe we can talk about some of the things that you brought up today.
Okay, yeah. 4 o'clock?
Yeah,
Okay. Got it. We'll see you then.
thank you, everybody, for your time today.
Thanks for
We
coming.
got some things done. I think we got some things. I want to do.
Yeah.